here at the Cooper Union. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great evening ahead of us where we're going to deep dive into all things Cooper. So you'll hear directly from faculty, from students, from financial aid, from student affairs, and our dean about what makes Cooper such an extraordinary place and honestly, truly, such a wonderful and warm community to be a part of. So we do have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to keep my comments brief. But I would like to take a moment to introduce the engineering admissions team. There's only 3 of us. It's a small team. Alicia Miller and Sanjeev Menon. And Sanjeev is also a Cooper civil engineering alum as well. So I wanted to plug 2 events that we have coming up in the next few weeks. They're both virtual. The first is next Tuesday, October 25th, and it's hosted by our chapter of the Society of Women Engineers at the Cooper Union. And the second is a research panel dedicated to all the research that our faculty and students are conducting. Both events are virtual, and I highly encourage you to attend them. They should be great events. I also have one item of housekeeping. It may already be on your agendas, but we are going to remain here in the Great Hall for the next 40 minutes, at which point we're going to invite our future students to meet with our admissions ambassadors across the street so that they can attend breakout sessions by majors. We're going to invite families and guests to remain here where we'll have additional sessions on financial aid and student affairs and break for dinner. All of us will reconvene back at the Great Hall at 8 o'clock when we're going to conclude the event. Okay. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Barry Shoup, Dean of the School of Engineering. Thanks all, and have a great evening.
Well, good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Good. So let me add my personal welcome to Cooper Union and to this evening's open house for the School of Engineering. We're very pleased you've taken time out of a very busy schedule to come and visit us tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin by giving you a brief high-level overview of the School of Engineering and of the programs in the School of Engineering. And then after, we'll have a series of students, so you can actually hear from students who are here at Cooper Union from each of the 5 majors. And then after that, we'll break out into the individual majors, and you'll get an opportunity to talk to and hear from faculty as well as students in the individual majors. So what I will tell you is that our School of Engineering is among the most prestigious and selective engineering schools in the nation. We're consistently ranked in the top 10 of undergraduate engineering programs in the nation. And what I would say is we are a very small school, but we're often told that we punch well above our weight class. So the quality of the engineering education coming from Cooper is exceptional. So some of the defining characteristics of our engineering curriculum include rigorous preparation in mathematics and natural sciences, emphasis on project-based learning, hands-on project, strong integration of undergraduate research that you don't find at many institutions, and a very rich opportunity to take graduate level courses as an undergraduate. Our student to faculty ratio is roughly 7-to-1, so we are a very small, very intimate engineering program in an engineering school. The vast majority of our courses are well under 30 students in a course, and when you get into your majors, it's even smaller, more selective, and more focused. So it's a very intimate learning environment. If you want to come to Cooper and be anonymous, it won't happen here. You get, the faculty get to know you personally by name, you get to know the faculty, and it's just a very intimate kind of a relationship. Beyond that learning environment, we have a very rich opportunities to both have fun and build professional skills. We have extracurricular activities, we have competitive clubs and competitive teams. Educational innovation and our graduate successes have been the foundation of a very rich and long heritage that sustains our exceptional reputation. Among our graduates are a Nobel Prize winner, civic leaders, and innovators whose achievements range from developing the first global positioning system to pioneering applications of artificial intelligence to designing the actual infrastructures that support and shape everyday life here in New York City. We're a bit unique from other colleges and universities in that we admit students directly into our engineering majors. So it's particularly important for you to understand what the specific discipline is and what the professional practice is, and that it aligns with what you want to do. So we offer 4 ABET accredited majors. They are Bachelor of Engineering degrees in chemical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. And then we offer a Bachelor of Science in general engineering. You'll hear more detail about the other majors a little bit later from the faculty and students. And we've actually structured this evening so that if you want to, you have the opportunity to not only see one of those majors, but if you're uncertain, the breakout will allow you to actually go to 2 different majors. So I encourage you, talk to the faculty, talk to the students, make sure that it aligns, because when you apply to Cooper, you will apply to civil engineering or electrical engineering or mechanical engineering. Cooper students, another distinction is that Cooper students and faculty are motivated by a desire to make an impact that benefits society and humanity. Their engagement with social issues, their eagerness to build and experiment, and their questioning of the status quo reach far beyond the classroom. A Cooper engineering education is about creating hands-on opportunities to solve problems and discover possibilities in a world where innovation in technology is shaping every aspect of our lives. We have been making some changes over the past several years. Over the past 2 years, we've had the opportunity to hire 8 new tenure-track faculty members. That represents about a 25% change in our tenured and tenure-track faculty. All of these faculty that we've hired are first-rate. They're young, they're hungry, they come from some of the best institutions in the nation, and they will be your professors and your teachers. This year, for the first time, the incoming freshman class or the incoming first-year class was 50% women, and we will continue to attempt to sustain that. We have 11% underrepresented minorities, and 22% of the first-year class are the first in their family to attend college. We have a number of exciting recent additions in the School of Engineering in terms of the curriculum. Students can now receive a minor in mathematics, computer science, bioengineering, humanities and social sciences, and by the end of this academic year, there will also be a chemistry minor available, so not just a major, but a minor. We also recently introduced a new course structure called the Vertically Integrated Projects, or a VIP course structure. And this is a course structure that engages students in project-based experiences over their entire experience here at Cooper Union. So as a first-year student, you can engage in one of these VIP courses, and you can continue. It's a 1-credit course. You can take it every semester, and what it does is it ensures that we've got project-based learning and projects throughout the curriculum. And what it also does is you can come in as a first-year student, you can gain additional disciplinary experience, and in your second year and third year, begin applying that disciplinary experience. And that course, that VIP course, also gives you an opportunity to gain valuable professional experience and professional skills like teamwork, leadership, project management, those other kinds of things that are important for engineers. Right now, we are offering a series of those courses. We have Smart Cities, Solar Decathlon, the Cooper Motorsports is part of that, and Frontiers in Bioengineering. Recently, we also reimagined our freshman engineering course by adding 18 upper class students as mentors and teaching assistants. And so this is first semester of first year, and so it gives you an opportunity to do project-based learning, but also have upper class students as role models, mentors, and as teaching assistants. And finally, we continue to add, because we are Cooper Union, we're not just engineering, although we're the best school here. Okay. You checked your humor at the door. No. But we also have an art school and we have an architecture school. And so one of the things that we've been doing over the past couple of years is we're really looking at the intersection of those different disciplines. And so at the intersection, we have really cool courses like generative machine learning for architecture, data science for social good, science and the art of brewing, empathetic robots, and introduction to sustainability and alternative energy. And those courses continue to grow. So what I tell you is it's an exciting time to be here at Cooper in engineering. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of things that engineers are doing for society and humanity, and we are truly at the leading edge of that. Again, I want to thank you for visiting with us tonight. Please take full advantage of all the resources that we have made available to help you get to know us better. Talk to our students, talk to our faculty, talk to our staff and the administrators. Challenge us with any and all questions that you might have. We will do our very best to provide you with the information that you need. Find out if Cooper Engineering is the right fit for you. And so I will now be followed by a student session, a panel session, one at a time, where you'll get an opportunity to hear firsthand from some of our students in the 5 different majors that we have. Again, welcome to Cooper.
Test. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. So my name is Bob, B-O-B, and I'm currently a senior chemical engineering student at Cooper Union. Chemical engineering, I represent chemical engineering here. And today, I want to talk about a few aspects that's important to me at Cooper Union. A few days ago, one of the admission team asked me whether I could talk about a few things. And there are many questions I wanted to address, but here I'm talking about 2 things. The first thing is, the first thing is, why did I choose Cooper Union when I was as a high school student? Second, why is Cooper Union special to me right now? So back in high school, when I was looking for college education, I looked for 2 things. The first was I wanted to have an engineering education where I could acquire education, and once I go out of the market or in the industry, I have the ability to do so. And second, I need to find scholarship opportunities. I'm an international student, so when I applied, actually I applied from Vietnam when I was living there with my father. I'm Korean, by the way. As an international student, I looked for those things, and one of my classmates was accepted, in fact, the upperclassman. And Cooper had the best education for me. And second, it offered scholarship that allowed me to be here, and so that my parents could support my education, and no doubt. And that's why I chose Cooper Union as my early decision school. So it was the only school I applied to, and I was admitted. So here I am. The second thing is, I think the second I want to talk about is a research opportunity at Cooper Union. Currently, I'm the Honor Society President for Chemical Engineering, as well as I lead the undergraduate research club here at Cooper Union. And what's really important about Cooper Union is that not only you have faculty and research opportunities that provide you, but there are many sources of funding opportunities that you can actually travel to those conferences and present. So those are not just staying in Cooper. Those research topics go outside. For example, in my class, there are about 22 students in my class, and half of them last year went to Boston to present. And this year as well, about half of them are traveling to Arizona to present the research. And those opportunities are funded from the Dean's Office, Career Center, as well as other department level. So for me, for example, I traveled to Rochester, New York this month to deliver a oral presentation. So those are elements that really allow me to pursue my career in research. So I'm applying to graduate school, and I'm taking all these tests like many of you here right now. So again, that's why I'm here at Cooper Union. So I'll make the same choice in high school, and I hope you guys see you again. So if you have any questions, let me know. My name is Bob, Chemical Engineering, and see you again. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lionel Giliar Schonenberger. I like to say that my last name has 22 characters of fun. I'm currently a civil engineering student, and I will be graduating this May in 2023. I actually came to Cooper Union as a mechanical engineering student. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, so it's not that far from here, and I still commute every day to school. It's totally possible. You become good friends with the Long Island Railroad, or maybe if you come from the north, Metro North Railroad. So why did I choose Cooper? Well, first off, it was local, it was known, and it had a good mix of both theory and practice. For me, that was a critical element. When I was 14 years old, I started to work as a flea market vendor on Long Island. I would repair tools, machinery, electronics. That turned into a passion for building things. Throughout high school, I built robots. I then came to Cooper to continue that dream and learn about the theory of why our natural world works a certain way. And in my first year, I kept my antenna open, or my eyes open rather, and I went to many ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineering events. And I wasn't a civil engineer, but I went because the topics interested me. From learning how to design high-rise structures, all the way to designing resilient foundations as sea level rises due to climate change here in New York. After my first year, I felt that it was more my calling to study civil engineering. I felt that I can have an impact by learning theory, how to implement the theory, and then analyze the results we have through Cooper, through the education and the many lab courses you have as a civil engineer. From mixing concrete by hand, to learning second order, third order differential equations, to design a building that can resist earthquake or flood loads. I felt that that was my passion. And so I switched to civil engineering, and that's the perfect mix. At Cooper, you have opportunities to not only research and get practical experience within your discipline, you might find the missions of others to be more interesting, and you can move from one major to the next. Then my eyes grew wider as I started to join the Solar Decathlon design competition, an interdisciplinary team comprised of all engineering majors and architects to design sustainable structures in a national design competition given by the US Department of Energy. So, interdisciplinary work was the next thing on the menu. As I'm now in my senior year, I work on the structural components and the life cycle analysis of designing a new academic building that is actually currently a proposal for an RFP on an academic building on Governor's Island. You go, you visit, and you get involved. At Cooper, they gave me the opportunity to network with professionals, to work with professors, and to work on myself. It was a perfect mix. I'm extremely thankful to Cooper, and I feel I have grown in a way that otherwise never would have been possible. The community is strong, the education is even stronger, and what you take with you, you know will forever be useful in a just and ecologically sound manner. So I hope you enjoy Cooper, consider it, it's a great time, and I thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Sue and I'm a senior electrical engineering student. If you're coming here today wondering if the Cooper Union is right for you, just know that when I was in your place, I didn't even know if I wanted to pursue engineering, let alone come here. And maybe that's exactly where some of you might be right now. But I can tell you that after becoming a Cooper engineering student and being here for 3 years, and having spent countless hours learning and working alongside some of the brightest and most hardworking peers and professors, I can't imagine myself being any other major, or really being anywhere else other than Cooper Union. I feel that it has really pushed me to work my hardest and to believe in myself. I can definitely say that Cooper makes you a better engineer in the real world. This summer, I came into my first hardware engineer internship, anxious because I didn't know what the workload would be, nor did I know if I was truly capable of it. But soon I found out that I had no need to worry. I was so used to the fast and rigorous pace at Cooper that my summer internship wasn't anywhere near as challenging to me, to my surprise. It really goes to show that if you come to Cooper, you'll be more prepared than most people when it comes to handling the real world. I've also grown fond of learning in general and really enjoy it, even if it means spending hours hunched over my desk working out a math proof or debugging a program I coded, because the feeling of satisfaction you get when you finally get it is so worth it. And I can't forget to mention my support system here. One of the main reasons I love being here is a small-knit community. It's a small school, so you end up taking classes with the same people. For me, I really like that because it allowed me to form meaningful connections with my peers, some of them who still amaze me every day with the amount of drive they have for what they do, which in turn really pushes me to continue working hard on improving my own skills and knowledge. The small professor-to-student ratio is also something that I really like about Cooper. If you're looking to go to grad school and want to work closely with professors during your undergrad, there are plenty of opportunities here. In fact, for my senior capstone project, my group and I are working in collaboration with one of the EE professors who specialize in RF and integrated circuit design. We're designing the front end of a 5 gigahertz transceiver on a chip and trying to optimize it for low power consumption, since that's a hot topic these days in IC design. Some of my other friends are working on projects involved in robotics and machine learning as well. So there's a big scope of things you can do here as a Cooper engineering student. I ended up coming here anyway, but if I had a chance to go back and talk to myself when I was in your shoes, I would have said everything that I've said to you guys, just so that I know I'm in for one of the best 4 years of my life. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Emma Cohen. I'm a junior general engineering student. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, so obviously I didn't move very far when I decided to come to Cooper. But I want to talk a little bit about what general engineering is, because it seems like there's a disconnect between a lot of people and what we actually learn in Cooper, and I didn't even really know what it was before I got here. So besides all of the required classes that all of the engineers are going to take, we basically get to take what we want, which is pretty cool. It is slightly overwhelming, but college is overwhelming, and it's really great. I've been able to take a lot of classes thus far in the bio department and in the chemie department, which were the greatest decisions I've ever made thus far in terms of my academic career and where I'd like to go from here. In the chemie department, I met a lot of great professors, one specifically that teaches a class called biomaterials, which to me seemed right up my alley as I came in knowing that I wanted to do some sort of bioengineering. And from there, I was able to join her research group and work on something called VIP, which is a vertically integrated project. And there's many different types of VIPs in our school. I'm in the bioengineering one. Obviously, that is what I'd like to do. And we're working on an education outreach program. So I'm working on creating experiments that students in elementary school up into 12th grade can work on, because they obviously don't have access to the funding or the materials that we do in college universities. So what I'm specifically doing is I'm looking at the controlled release of food coloring in contact lenses, because it's a great correlation to how drug delivery works and how we can deliver therapies to people who are in need. And it's a great way that students who are younger can do an experiment that's pretty cheap and easy to get. And from my VIP, which I'm still working on, I ended up getting an internship through the same professor at a research lab at Mount Sinai, which has been really cool. I started it during the summer, and I've been able to continue it during this semester, which has been really great. And one of the things that I love about Cooper is that they do their best so that you can still work on your research while you're taking your classes, and they're very understanding about going to conferences and hopefully presenting the stuff you've been able to work on, which hopefully I'm supposed to be going to the chemical engineering conference to present the work I've done thus far. So that would be really great, and I wouldn't be able to do it without Cooper's understanding of me needing to go to Phoenix, Arizona. So basically all the way across the country. And it's been really great, and at Sinai I'm working on a project using bioadhesives to prevent vaginal adhesions in people with gynecological cancer. And there's not a lot of research into what happens after people go through radiation, especially for gynecological cancers. So it's been really great to work on that and combine a multitude of different specialties between the chemical engineering department at Cooper Union and the people at Sinai who I'm working with, and as well as a doctor herself, the radiation oncologist. So that's been really great, and I probably wouldn't have anything as cool if I didn't come to Cooper. So I would highly recommend coming to Cooper, especially if you're interested in doing research. There's great opportunities in the school, out of the school. The professors are great, and yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anika. I'm currently a sophomore mechanical engineering student. So I wanted to talk about my experience as a freshman. I wasn't really sure about anything regarding research. I didn't really come in thinking that I would do any research, but I think what's super special about Cooper is that it's such a small and collaborative community that once you start talking to faculty, you start realizing that a lot of the professors here have their own little niche subject that they're currently doing research on. And so my first experience doing this was I reached out to a professor asking about work study. It's basically when you're able to work for a professor and also get paid for it. And I started talking to a professor named Professor Baglione. And after I started talking to her, I started talking about things other than just, engineering and kind of the course load here. I started talking about my own interests, and she started sort of guiding me and being like, hey, I'm doing this research here and there. And I sort of honestly accidentally got into research. She sort of like kind of recommended me that I start getting into her specific research, and I was like, sure. I mean, I was open-minded, and I came in, and I mean, I've been doing research since freshman year. Currently, we're doing research on the energy consumption of the new academic building across the street, basically to adjust to local laws that are changing, requiring that New York City buildings decrease their energy consumption in an effort to decrease our carbon footprint. But just to take a little step back from research and sort of the realm of engineering, I also wanted to talk about the fact that Cooper hosts a great environment for you to sort of explore yourself and explore your hobbies. I wanted to talk about a special moment when I had my first experience, exploring a hobby of mine. So I guess one night I was procrastinating my linear algebra homework, and one of my friends named Akil, he's a really talented musician and artist, he called me and was like, Anika, I need you to come to the recording studio. Basically, the recording studio is located in this building, the foundation building, which is primarily for art and architecture students, but there's an extensive list of resources here that are available for engineering students as well, and vice versa. So I answer him and I go, I mean, sure, I mean, why not? And so I come and he leads me to this recording studio that I had never seen the day in the light of, right? And so I come in and I see that there's an entire soundboard, a computer equipped with musical production software, and an entire recording booth that's like covered in acoustic paneling. And it was this professional setup, and I've never been inside. And he sort of sat me down. He started producing his song that he was working on. And he looks at me and he goes, Anika, go in the recording booth. And I turn to him and I go, Akil, I can't sing. I can't sing for the life of me. And he goes, just go in there. Just trust me. And I go in. He closes the door, completely soundproof. He turns on the little intercom and goes, Anika, just start talking. Start talking about something that you're inspired by. And I go, Akil, that's kind of weird, but okay. And so I started talking about something, and basically he took my audio and my snippet of my voice and put it at the end of his song. And he produced his music in such a way that it was so professionally made. And hearing my voice at the end of this song sort of made me think in retrospect how cool of an experience this is. I mean, I would have never experienced or even thought that I would ever be on a song. And so I was just thinking about how small and collaborative of a community that Cooper is, that once you start talking to people and start talking about things like your interests and your hobbies, you start realizing that people have so many, a variety of skill sets, and it'll take you to places that you never would have even imagined yourself in. If I never met Akil, I would have never known that I could even produce a song and be in a song where my voice is in. And so I thought that was really special. And I think Cooper provides you with a vast list of resources that allows you to not only study engineering, but also explore yourself and your hobbies and your interests. So I hope everyone has a great day, and thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Campbell. I'm Vice President for Enrollment here at Cooper, and I have the task of dismissing the students at this point to go on to some programs specifically designed for them. Parents will remain here, and I will take you through. Please don't move yet. Please, I've been given very specific instructions about how to do this, so please hang on just 1 second. Parents will stay here and we'll talk about financial aid. But students, first, if you're interested in mechanical engineering, you'll see a student at the back with a Peter Cooper head waving to you. Please move to the back of the room if you're interested in mechanical. I'm resisting the temptation to make a comment about how long the mechanical engineers will figure out, how long it will take them to figure out how to walk out the door. But I said it. Next group, civil engineers. If you're interested in civil, there is a Peter Cooper sign for you. Okay, next, chemical engineers. Our next group, electrical. And last but certainly not least, general engineering. So again, my name is Mark Campbell. I am Vice President for Enrollment here at Cooper, and I'm going to take you all through a presentation concerning the financial aid process and how it works for colleges generally at the post-secondary level in the United States, and then I'll delve into some detail about how we do things here at the Cooper Union. Every time I walk onto this stage, I'm aware of this podium. Do you know about this podium? This is the same podium, this is the same place that Abraham Lincoln gave a speech that launched his presidential aspirations, and I always feel the energy of this podium, and I can, of course, never live up to that. I don't belong out here, but I'm going to try to walk you through this nonetheless. Okay. We know tonight that some of you are parents of students who are sophomores in high school or juniors or seniors. Some of you are probably unfamiliar with the financial aid process and how it works for colleges. Others of you may have already filed a FAFSA or you've had children go to college. I have that all in my mind as I put these slides together, so I'm hoping that it's both an introduction, a refresher, and then a little bit of advanced kind of topics for those of you who are more advanced. I also hope that my planning is such that we have time for lots of questions at the end. So if you do have some questions, please keep them. I'll also stick around at the end because sometimes you have a question that you don't want to ask in front of all of these other nice people. So feel free to approach me afterwards if you have something more individual. Okay. So first, we're assuming here that that you're all U.S. citizens or green card holders. This doesn't apply to you if you're an international student. Sometimes we have folks who are here for this event who are international. The international students are generally not eligible for the federal financial aid system in the U.S. But the free application for federal student aid is where financial aid begins. Every citizen or green card holder is entitled to apply and in fact to receive a student loan if that's what you want to do. So everyone is eligible for this process, which is available for higher ed throughout the United States. And to initiate that process, it's all electronic, it's all online at fafsa.gov. Special bonus points if you can say FAFSA, and if you don't say FAFSA. It's hard to keep that distinction clear. So, how do you fill out the FAFSA? You have your tax information for the previous year typically available for you. And I'm going to start off right away by something that's a little bit complicated, which is the following. Usually people do their taxes in February, March, after you get your W-2s and you fill out your form and you have that tax information, and then you go fill out the FAFSA. However, that can sometimes be too late depending on the college that you're going to or what your circumstances are. So you can use your prior year information to fill out the FAFSA. So It's 2022 right now. Normally, you might wait until January, February, March of 23 to do your financial year 2022 tax return. And that would be something you could use to fill out the FAFSA. However, you can use your, in this case, 2021 information. If you've already done your taxes for 2021, which you probably should, you have that information and you can fill out the FAFSA with that information if you want to do that. This is something of an element where, you certainly want to make yourself eligible for as much aid as possible. So if your 2021 tax results are available to you and you don't think that 22 is going to be better, you probably use 21 or vice versa. So I don't want to say too much more about that. But what do you do when you get there? If you want to submit your information to us, you use our code, 002710. Every college in the United States that's part of this system has a code, and you can search for them there. So you will obviously apply, I hope, to more than one institution, and if you want to send your financial aid information to those schools, you may. There's a limit. I can't remember what it is. I think it might be 5, it might be 7. You can't send it to 50 different schools. If at any point you change your mind about where you want it to go, you can just sign back in, log in, and say, okay, please send me my information to this other place. But if you want us to have it, you fill out the form and you use that code. Uh-oh. Hey, Sanjeev. This is not my presentation. This is where somebody goes like this and like, talk, spread it out. I know what the next slide is, and that's not it. So here I have it sort of memorized. The next part of the presentation is mostly about acronyms, a whole bunch of acronyms. I mean, FAFSA is one, but the entire financial aid process in some ways is about learning acronyms, and I'm going to take you through a few of those that are important to understand. The first one is EFC, Estimated Family Contribution. So what happens once you fill out the FAFSA is it goes into a massive computer database. No human is involved in this calculation. I want to assure you of that. But they ask you a bunch of questions about your family financial circumstances, your salary, your assets, and the student also has a portion to fill out in there as well. You put all that information in, and what pops out, the result of the FAFSA, is something that comes back that's known as the EFC, or Estimated Family Contribution. It might come back and say, we estimate that your family can pay $5,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $500,000 a year. Any number is theoretically possible there. You get a number back. I think they'd probably stop at $1 million, just because there's no point in determining that you have more than $1 million available for college. So that number is really important to understand. It gives you a rough sense of what the federal system is estimating for you in terms of what you can pay. Your eligibility for all kinds of additional support in financial aid is based on the EFC, or the Estimated Family Contribution. Another important acronym that connects to all of this is COA, cost of attendance. It's a very specific term. You think you probably know what that means, but you don't. in the context of federal financial aid, it's a very specific definition. The cost of attendance is not only tuition and fees and books and food and rent and insurance and transportation and travel. It's all of those things. And every institution that's part of this system gives you, they have a baseline number of what your cost of attendance is. And it's all those things. So what's the real cost, the total cost, all the things that go into supporting a student? Some people would think, oh, it's tuition and fees and room and board. It is, but it's some other things as well. Or it isn't, because a student's living at home. So a student who's living at home has one cost of attendance, and a student who's living on campus, all set, thank you. A student who's living on campus has a different cost of attendance. Let's see what happens. Oh, you've been forwarded to the right slide, Sanjeev? Thank you. Okay. So as I was saying, cost of attendance is everything, all the things that go into supporting a student. And not everybody has the same cost of attendance, because not everybody, in some institutions, tuition is different or fees are different, even depending on what program you're in. And then if you live on campus in a single room, you pay more than a student in a double room, or if you're living off campus or you're living with your parents, it all varies a little bit. But in the end, everyone has a cost of attendance of some kind. This is the really important slide here. If I know what the cost of attendance is, and I know how much financial aid I'm going to receive, and I know what my estimated family contribution is, I can determine if I have any financial need, and if so, how much. Let me give a very simple mathematical example in this. Let's say you're at an institution that costs $10,000. All in. The cost of attendance is $10,000. Tuition, room, board, everything. Maybe that's community college. It's sort of on the inexpensive side. $10,000. And let's say that they give you a $5,000 scholarship. Okay? Let's say you have a Pell Grant, which is a support of a couple of $2,000. So you have aid, let's say, of $7,000. You have a cost of attendance of $10,000. You have $7,000. Now you have $3,000 left over. And let's see what your estimated family contribution is. If your estimated family contribution is $2,000, then you have $1,000 worth of need. If your estimated family contribution is more than $3,000, then you don't have any financial need. So this is the principle upon which all the financial aid from the federal government is essentially distributed. You're going to this certain school with this certain cost, and they're going to give you this certain amount of financial aid, and you have an EFC, and now we see whether you have any need. If you don't have any need, you're probably done. Like, that's probably it. You're probably looking at what the cost is going to be. However, let's give a different example, more private school numbers. Let's say the cost of attendance is $70,000, and you have aid of $30,000. So now you're down to only $40,000, and your EFC is $20,000. Well, now you have financial need of $20,000 as well. And so in that case, personally, I would think for you that I would hope for you that that institution can extend some need-based financial aid to you to make up for the fact that after all, everything's added up and you've got your EFC in there and you've paid, well, what's left over is a lot, and there's a big gap between what you can pay and what they're asking you to pay. And so that's where the need-based awards come in. How are we doing so far? You with me? Understand? Okay. I got 2 thumbs up and a whole bunch of nothing, so I'm going to go with the 2 thumbs up and keep moving on. That notion of need, the way it's calculated there, cost of attendance, minus any kind of loans and so on, or aid, minus the EFC, determines your eligibility for certain kinds of financial aid that the federal government administers. Those are the 4 main types. There are loans that are made out directly to the students that are in the student's name. There are loans available that parents may borrow under certain circumstances. There are grants, most notably the Pell Grant. You may have heard of that. That's a federal grant that's available for students with financial need. And you can also receive support for work. So you can work on campus, and that's perceived as financial aid. You have to work to get it, of course, but that's an option for having some additional resources. But you have to have financial need to access work study, for example. If you demonstrate through your FAFSA and your EFC comes back at $500,000, like we said before, you won't be eligible for a work study job on your campus. You won't be eligible for a grant. A Pell Grant is not coming your way. However, that will not disqualify you from either the student loan or the parent loan programs. They will lend money to you regardless of your EFC or your ability to pay. Whether you have need or don't have need, you can still borrow. This is America. We can borrow money. We can go in debt. No one's going to stop us. So the only real difference, and not to get in too much into the minutia here, is that if your student borrows money and is a student with financial need, they do not pay interest on that loan while they are a student. So that's called a subsidized loan, and the government essentially pays the interest on that for you while you are a student, if you have need. If you're a student who has no demonstrated financial need through the FAFSA process and you borrow, the interest is accumulating the entire time that you're a student. Okay, keep moving. Pell Grants, and the word grant itself in the college setting is essentially this. It's gift aid. It's given to you, no need to pay it back, and often financial aid folks will call a Pell Grant a type of a gift aid. And just to give you a sense of who qualifies for that grant, it's essentially those folks whose EFC is about $6,000 or less. So Pell was designed essentially to go to low-income students to help them be able to afford college. And it works on something of a sliding scale. So if your ability to pay is absolutely zero, you're likely to receive a Pell Grant of about $6,000. If your ability to pay is $3,000, you're probably going to get a Pell Grant of about $3,000. If your ability to pay is $6,000, you might get a Pell Grant for a couple $100. And that's essentially how that whole system works. We also have states who engage in something similar to Pell Grants to provide additional support, and sometimes, or I would say in most cases, the states, the money that you can receive in the form of a grant from your state is also based on the EFC, and there's a similar formula to the Pell Grant. So it's not identical, and it depends on your state, so I encourage you to, if you think you might qualify, to try to understand that where you are. In New York, it's called TAP, T-A-P, Tuition Assistance Program, and perhaps not surprisingly, it's really complicated because state government, that's, so, but you can be eligible for additional grant aid, again, based on what your EFC is. Okay, this is like parent to parent. You're dealing with the federal government in a massive, fairly impersonal system where it's a little bit like the IRS in a way, like you got to fill out the forms, you got to do it the way they want you to do it, and getting somebody on the phone to help you is almost impossible, and you just have to be persistent and comply with what they want, and reach out to us. I mean, if your student is applying to Cooper and you're trying to get through the financial aid process and you have difficulty, that's really what we're here for. I would not call 1-800-FAFSA if it exists. Call us, we'll help you. Okay. Now, let's get on to what I would call the good part. At the Cooper Union, our cost of attendance ranges. Remember the definition of COA, it's everything. It ranges from as low as $52,000, that's probably a student who lives at home and lives locally, to as much as $69,000, and that would typically be a student who's living probably in a single room on our dorms. And there's lots of stopping points in between there. That's the gross cost, that's the overall total. That compares very favorably with any private institution in this country, let alone New York City. And I would tell you that the tuition number of $44,550 has not changed in 5 years, and our Board of Trustees announced it's not even public. You're like the first group to hear this, but tuition is frozen again next year. We haven't changed it for 5 years. We have no plan to change tuition. It's sort of indefinitely frozen there. I could spend all the rest of my time going into the details around that, but I have other things we need to talk about. But essentially, Cooper Union has no plan to increase tuition any time during the next, let's say, 4 to 5 years if your students are enrolled at Cooper. And I only bring that to your attention because with inflation at 8%, if you take that 44 and you multiply it by 0.08 for 4 years, it's a lot bigger by the senior year of college. So it's not insignificant when you're looking at these kinds of numbers. At Cooper, every admitted student right off the bat gets 50% scholarship. $22,275 we call it a merit award because we think if you are meritorious enough to be admitted, we will extend that money. That goes to every single student. Don't have to apply, don't have to do anything. That just happens. Well, you do have to apply for admission. We're not giving it out on the street. But you don't have to make any special scholarship application for that to happen. Then, once that's done, we have your FAFSA if you choose to fill it out. And by the way, you don't have to. There's no obligation to fill out the FAFSA. That's your choice. You might say to yourself, we wouldn't qualify for anything, I don't think, and we don't want to take a loan, so, it's just a lot of work that's unnecessary. But if you do fill out the FAFSA, we're going to look carefully at that, and we're going to determine how much additional financial need you might have. So with our cost of attendance at, let's just round it off to say $60,000, and you have our $22,000 scholarship, you're still looking at, say, $38,000. Well, some of you might be able to write a check for that, but also I know that probably most of you can't, and that's where our need-based approach kicks in. We require you to fill out the FAFSA and all that documentation because we're good stewards of the dollars that we have set aside for scholarships, so it has to be well documented. But at Cooper right now, roughly 50% of our students pay zero in tuition. And on average, and there are many students who, while they don't pay zero, they pay some, they pay less than the $22,000. So on average at Cooper, students pay about 20% of the total. So if you go back to, I don't know if I can reverse, I'm going to try. There. You go back to that tuition at $44,000 or so. So 20% of that is $8,800 or rounded off to $9,000. That's the average amount of tuition paid at Cooper. Now, I'm sort of a little unnerved by giving that to you, because if you end up paying more than that, you'll think that you were somehow mistreated. And that's not the case. It's just that that's the average. So some people pay zero, and some people get no additional financial aid from us. They pay the full $22,000. After that scholarship is removed, they pay the full $22,000 because they're not eligible for more. But the average turns out to be about $8,000, which again, I say that because in context, it explains why if you look at rankings or U.S. News and World Report why we're the most affordable college, well, that's why. Or we're ranked number one for affordability. Okay. Okay, that's where I wanted to be. So, just back to this point. You applied to Cooper, you sent us your FAFSA, you got admitted, you got the 50%, and your FAFSA information came back to us, and it showed a pretty low number. We're going to eliminate your tuition. That's possible. So it's valued up to the amount of full tuition. Can happen if the EFC is relatively low. If it's in the middle somewhere, then we will give you some support, but not all. If you have a very high EFC, congratulations, your son or daughter's been admitted, and you got the 50%. That's kind of how it works, and in a really kind of simple, trying to simplify that process. We do also offer merit aid, and it's limited, but it is there. So I'm actually being a little facetious when I say that's it. It is possible in some cases, and it's again part of the admissions process. When we get through the entire evaluation of our entire class, we take a look at some of our most outstanding students who have extraordinary talent and commitment and engagement, and we extend some additional financial aid to encourage them to enroll. But this is typically a small amount, and it's not often. So some people want to know, is there a merit component? Yes, there is, but I just want to suggest that you not count on that. It's possible, but typically there are not that many awards, and the amount of those awards is not very large. Okay. So, especially if you're doing this for the first time, if you've had a son or daughter go to college, or you're a recent college graduate yourself, you've been there, you may not be all that intimidated or discouraged, but this is kind of hard, and we know that, and so we really want to emphasize how important it is to reach out to us. You can start typically first with your admissions counselor who knows your son or daughter, helping them through the application or other things like that, and they are armed with good financial aid information generally, so they can answer most of the questions. If you have a complicated financial circumstance and filling out the FAFSA is hard, then you can connect with our financial aid professionals who can walk you through the more, kind of advanced, nuanced things that trip some people up. To reach us, we made it kind of simple. So the inbox for financial aid is financialaid@cooper.edu, and feel free at any time to reach out. So there's no microphone out there, and in fact, I was thinking it's a small enough space, and there's a few of us here. I think I'm going to just come down to the front, and maybe I'll be able to hear your questions, and you'll be able to hear my answers if you have any. Okay? We do not. I'm gonna answer that question even more fully than you actually asked it. Early decision is at Cooper, and the data really shows this, not something where we treat students differently in any way. The admit rates and so at a lot of institutions there's a lot of data out there, and you end up trying to feel like I need to game this somehow, like what should we do, what's our strategy, because maybe my chances of getting admitted or getting more aid vary depending on when I apply. And I just want to tell you sincerely, we don't do that. We simply go through that early process when we select students who are admissible and they get aid packages that are comparable to the folks who applied at a later time. There really is no statistical difference in any element of what we're doing there, something I'm kind of proud to say, and I appreciate the question. Yes? Well, when you apply early decision, you are saying, if I get accepted, I'm coming. And it's called, in our world of higher education, binding, which implies that it's some kind of legal contract and that we would sue you, I guess, if you didn't actually show up, which of course is not true. However, we take you at your word, and the reason for early decision from our perspective, from a college's perspective is, and it's especially true at Cooper, we're trying to enroll a very specific number of students because it's a small institution and we have space for 25 architects, not 26 and not 24 really. So we don't want to leave an empty seat. We're trying to land right on 25. So for us, early decision is just helpful because we have six architects and we know those 6 spots are taken and they're coming because it's binding. I just have to be honest with you though. Sometimes students admitted early don't show up for things happen. So at Cooper at least, we're kind of open about understanding that. Probably in our case, 97% of the students who applied early and were admitted will then show up, but occasionally a few don't. Yes? Would you like to work in the financial aid office? No, that's exactly right. So what is the purpose of filling out the FAFSA? It might be that you think you could be eligible for a Pell Grant or you want to avail yourself of student loans, but it could be none of that and only the possibility of receiving some need-based financial aid from us. And that is actually what you described, the case for many families. Their only real purpose, they know they're not going to get a Pell Grant, they know they don't want to borrow, but they also know that they might qualify for some need-based support from us. And so I start with that as one of the very first slides, because unless you're in a very high income bracket, it's probably worth it to at least fill it out the first time and see what it generates. Yes, sir. Yes. It's a good question. And part of the variability in our cost of attendance that I showed you there was that, for instance, this year, for students who are living off campus, we significantly increased our estimation of what their cost of attendance was, which in turn, if you understand what I showed you there, what that means is that some students are now eligible for need-based support who wouldn't have been because their costs are higher and everything else has sort of stayed the same. So, it's really unusual. In my lifetime, I haven't seen sort of 8% kind of inflation levels, but But we determine our cost of attendance. As a participant in the federal financial aid system, each institution independently determines what they're going to do. So, you know, you're living in Manhattan and these circumstances, so we've boosted that cost of attendance to help students be able to be eligible for more need-based aid from us, or in some cases, eligible for more loans even if that's what they wanted to do. So, does that answer it? Oh, well, we expect our cost of attendance to go up roughly by the level of inflation, so be about 8% more, roughly. Yeah. That said, we have not made that kind of decision with our own housing. We have a plan to increase housing next year by 3%. We're stuck. we're stuck like 3 years ago or something. Like we still think things are normal and go up 3%. So our housing will be below, its increase will be well below inflation rates. Yes. Yes. Yeah. The question was the low end of cost of attendance was about 52,000 and the high end was 69 and change, I think. And what's the difference there? It really is, it costs about 17,000 or so to live on campus. All the other costs essentially are the same, books and insurance and those types of things. But that's the math. Yeah. Right, right. Yes. When you fill out the FAFSA, it'll come back to you in an electronic format. You create an account there, and you can go back and look at, you have sign-in credentials, you can go back and look at it as many times as you like. But literally at the bottom of the student aid report that comes back to you, another acronym, the SAR, when that comes back to you, you will literally see the acronym EFC, or expected family contribution, and you can see that. Let me warn you, you will not believe what they tell you you can pay. You will not believe it. You just won't. It's and to be serious about that for a moment, we know that in general it tends to overestimate your ability to pay, and so do not freak out. When you see that EFC and it's way more than you think you can pay, Cooper and many other institutions will work with you to try to get you somewhere that you can make happen. My feeling, and I've never been able to say this in a higher ed career that spans over 30 years, but I can say it at Cooper, we can make it affordable for you. And that varies for every single family in the room. Some of you won't qualify for any need-based aid. I said we'd make it affordable. I'm not going to make it easy necessarily, but we'll make it affordable for you. If you get to the end of your admissions process and you and your son or daughter want to be here, and you're thinking to yourself, we can't make this work, you got to pick up the phone at that point and talk to our admissions staff and work with us, because maybe there's something we just don't understand. And that's the other thing about the whole FAFSA process. There's no humans involved in it. It's just a bunch of numbers in a computer, and it spits it back, and there's no narrative. And we want, a lot of times we work with families to understand the narrative of what explains what's really going into this expected family contribution and what the circumstances are, because they vary so widely. Sometimes your ESC is really high for 1 year because you had some payment or something happened that was really favorable, but that doesn't represent the true nature of your family's finances. And we want to know those kinds of things. There are all kinds of anomalies. We're small enough that we can manage that. You go to a larger institution, it's very hard to kind of get the individual attention you need to have those circumstances considered. I'm happy to tell you that we welcome that kind of information. Yes? Yes. The question is about, on the FAFSA, they ask you, how many children do you have in total? How many of them are in college? You could have a circumstance, well, if you had twins, let's say. If you had one child and your EFC was $10,000, and then you had, and the twin returned to the family, now your EFC is probably $5,000. They basically take your EFC and divide it by the number of children. So if you only have one child in college, you know, it's X. But if you have two children in college, it's probably X divided by 2. Yes? Oh, why don't we go here? Yeah. Okay. They have twins. Yes. Yes. Right. Sure. So, yeah, so the question really for the wider audience who mostly don't have twins is just that, how do they figure this out? They got your social. They have your social and they have your tax returns, and you submitted that information, and they will connect your 2 children to you and more or less look at your ability to pay in total, and then each of your children will have an EFC which is roughly half of the total family EFC, if that makes sense. Believe me, that will happen, and if it doesn't, you know, we can help you with that. Is that light coming up because I'm out of time? No? Okay. Are freshmen required to live on campus the first year? No. Our approach is that we would like to make it possible for every freshman to live on campus if they want to, but we don't require it. And you know, there are lots of our students who are local New York City kids who take the R train and, you know, they don't need to be here. On the other hand, we see the benefits of it if it's possible and affordable. And our approach is that we want to make a space for every student who wants to. And we do that in sort of like a reverse geographic basis. We want to help international students and California students first, let's say, and local students, if we have space available, we get to them last. All the time I've been at Cooper, which is only 3 years, but in all that time, we've been able to accommodate every student who wanted to live on campus. Yes?
In the early decision process, is there a number of seats that you want to fill during the early decision, or is it just you take however many students that are in fit?
I want to repeat the question. It was really well worded. In the early decision process, do we have a goal in mind in terms of how many students we're going to admit, or is it just you know, how it plays out? And it's really the latter. We will admit anywhere from 0 to a really big number in early decision. We really, and it goes back to the earlier question, because we have a standard in mind and we have a fit in mind, and it's both a quantitative and qualitative process. But when we see an admit in early decision, we'll take them. And one year we could have 6 early decision admits in art, and the next year we could have 12, and that's just because we felt like there were 12 students who deserved to be admitted. While I'm on this topic, if you are applying early, I also want to tell you that very commonly what will happen to students who apply early is that we will defer our decision to the regular pool. And the reason for that to the student's mind sometimes it's devastating, and it means that they have no chance. And I'm here to tell you that it couldn't be further from the truth. What it often means is, oh, you have no physics grade. You're applying to an engineering program, and we haven't seen, you're taking physics for the very first time. We would just like to see that grade later on, January, February, before we make a decision. And lots of students who are deferred to the regular pool, having applied early, get admitted. And it's simply because they don't necessarily have all the right credentials for us to feel comfortable. At Cooper, it's competitive for admission. So the early applicant, to be admitted kind of has to be somewhat complete in terms of their academic background for our admissions committees to feel fully comfortable. And that deferral to the regular process, if it happens, please don't get discouraged by that. It doesn't really mean a thing. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what's your wisdom in general and specifically how the school curriculum about that students should carry and stay on the graduation?
Question about student loan debt and my wisdom about how much a student should carry. I mean, first of all, at Cooper, the average amount of student loan debt is very, very low. And the one way to answer your question would be, what is the default rate on student loans? That's a federally required piece of data that you can look up on any institution, and you'll find that in our case, our default rate is astonishingly low because very few students actually take a significant amount of loans. My general advice is, if you have to borrow to make it work, it's a terrific self-investment, and you should feel okay about doing it. On the other hand, you should borrow as little as possible. I'm saying what's probably common sense, but we really discourage students from taking large student loans, or for parents from taking large parent loans. We're fortunate enough here that shouldn't really be necessary because of the aid that we have available. But just generally, it's okay to take a student loan, but to take the smallest one you can live with and that you really need. All the way in the back.
Great job answering all the questions.
Oh, thanks. Yes. Great question. Students generally in the state of New York are required to have health insurance to be in college, and if they have it with their parents, they can submit that information to us for a waiver, and they will not be charged. If they don't have insurance, we sell it at a very, kind of in the marketplace, actually competitive rate, but still kind of expensive, and would be something I would discourage you from buying as long as your plan is solid. It doesn't decrease your cost because we don't default bill it, so it's not in there, so it's not a reduction. We'll add it in if the student needs to purchase it, but typically speaking, most students have insurance with their family, and they're waiving out of paying it. Yes?
My second question then was, can you run through again when you applied for FAFSA? You were saying if you fill it out in the fall of the year you're applying, you can use that year, so the year before. So is that when you fill it out?
So, it's available now. You can go on FAFSA.gov and start that process. You have to get credentials first and get a PIN number and all this kind of stuff to get going. And you can file for fall 23 entrance using your 2021 tax year information.
So that would be, you're saying you could do it now if you're applying for the next fall. If you're a junior or a sophomore, you would not be.
Correct.
That's what I was thinking.
Correct, yes. And while we're on that topic, this is the one thing, well, maybe there's a couple others, but this is the one thing I can say for sure. You have to stay in contact with your student for the entire 4 years. You have to fill it out, they have to fill it out. You can't disconnect. They have to talk to you about it. You have to talk to them. This is the one thing. They can try to ignore you for other things, but they can't pay for college without your help and support. They can't fill it out alone. Yes.
If you fill out the FAFSA this year, with this year's tax bill and things change, can you update that in 2023?
Yes. So you have to do this every year, in fact. Yeah. So every year you have to fill this out, and your need may change from one year to the next.
So you update it.
Right.
You can use it this year, but then you'll just update it.
Correct. Yes. So we have had circumstances going both, or I have seen circumstances going both ways in my career, where a family on the one hand has no financial need at all one year, then they have some kind of economic financial difficulty, and the following year they suddenly qualify for need-based aid. I've also seen it work the other way. Yes, sir. Yes, so that's one of the questions that you'll see on the FAFSA is, and part of the reason that the students fill this out, so if there are assets that they possess in their name, they get listed there, and all of yours as well. And so the 529 plans go into the formula and are treated in a certain way, and they are used as assets, as they are, and they would, they increase your ability to pay. But they get somewhat favorable treatment in the formula. But yes, you must, it's a question right in the FAFSA that you have to fill out. They ask you what the value of it is. Yes? Yes. Okay, so two questions there. One is, I don't have a child going to college next year. Can I fill out the FAFSA? The short answer is no, because you have to put a school code there, and it's sort of tied to your intent to enroll somewhere else. However, at your high school and online, there are all kinds of faux FAFSA places you can go to basically fill out a fake FAFSA, and it'll come back and give you an estimated family contribution that if it's reputable, will probably pretty close to where it is. So you can't do it officially, but you can do it separately. And the second part of your question was, I just lost it.
I heard that there will be changes to the application.
Right. Yeah. So, in short, what I would say about that is that there's been complaints ever since I started my career about the complexity of this process and how it actually deters participation in higher education. Some people need support financially, and this process wears them out, and they don't have the resources to complete it. So there's been legislative, kind of efforts in Congress to try to streamline this and make it simpler. I'm all for it. At this stage, the financial aid profession is not all that excited about what they see in terms of those changes. We don't see it, suddenly becoming a lot easier than it is right now. I don't think it impacts you or anyone else all that much. It just means that at some point they may ask fewer questions or ask them differently, but otherwise it's not going to have material kind of impact. Fatima, how are we doing on time? We're good, okay. Couple more questions? Okay, yes. This is not facetious, no. The question is about merit aid. Give us a rough idea of who gets merit aid. Let me give a more serious answer. Students who get admitted to Cooper have high GPAs and high test scores, and so it's not really enough in and of itself to distinguish you. So that pool of admitted students is so strong that the way to describe the merit aid students is to say that they've been extraordinary in some way, and a 4.0 and a high test score in our context is, and it sounds, I hate to say it, but it's not extraordinary. It's great, but it's not extraordinary. And so we're looking for someone who just really stands out in terms of their life experience and what they've done, what they've contributed, how we might anticipate them making a major contribution to our community. And I know that's a softer answer, but it's honest. You're welcome. Sure. Well, here I am looking at the director of admissions for engineering and the dean of the engineering school who know these numbers better than I do. But once I give my answer, I'm going to invite them to correct it if they feel it's desperately wrong. We have found in the last few years, like many institutions, a pretty significant surge in applicants to mechanical engineering. So that's kind of understood. There isn't much difference between one program to the next, but we do have a target in mind for each of our programs in terms of the number of students we'd like to have in there. And so to some extent, there's a competitive environment, if you will, for each of the programs. But I would just say there isn't such a big difference that you should say, oh, well, I'll suddenly apply for electrical even though I was interested in mechanical. Don't do that. Don't try to game the system. Dr. Shoup, Fatima, I got 2 thumbs up, all right. Well, my next task is to get you out this door. Don't go all at once, where dinner awaits you. And I've done a lot of these kinds of events before, and I'm not sure I've had so much lively engagement from you, so I really appreciate that. I hope you found it useful. And like I said before, I and lots of others are around to answer your questions. Thanks so much for coming.
Hello, everybody. I was excited with the music. I thought I was going to do some karaoke number for you or something, which none of us would have enjoyed, I promise you that. Maybe you would have enjoyed it. It would have been a comic relief. Welcome. I'm Chris Chamberlain. I'm the Dean of Students here at Cooper Union. Really glad to see you all here today and glad to be able to spend some time with you. What we're going to be doing today is just talking to you a little bit about student life at Cooper Union, just to try to give you a sense of what exists outside of our art, architecture, and engineering programs that our students, your students, would be engaging with when they're here. Cooper's really well known for its academic programs, and usually there's no question about what you're going to be studying academically, and I'm sure they're learning a ton across the street or here now, or across the street about art, but this is only engineering, so they're learning a lot about engineering, their specific discipline and all that, but I do want to make sure it's important that you all understand there's also a whole other aspect to Cooper Union and also a lot of other resources, supportive opportunities, things that students can engage with while they're here, that I'm sure at least some of these things are things that you probably care deeply about, how we provide student care resources, extracurricular activities, our Center for Career Development, housing. Those are all the areas that we're going to kind of touch on here today. So I will go ahead and just get started with you. So again, I'm Chris Chamberlain. I'm the Dean of Students here. I use he, they pronouns. And so going to talk to you a little bit about student affairs. So one of the things that I'm going to touch base on is our Welcome Week and new student orientation programs. After that, I'm going to hand the mic over, and we'll have some other folks here, our amazing student affairs leadership team that will introduce ourselves in a minute. We'll talk about student care and support, our Center for Career Development, and then student engagement, which really consists of our residence life and housing program, as well as our, sorry about that, our campus life and student activities. So all of our student clubs, organizations, really pretty much anything that students want to be involved with outside of their credit-based coursework here at Cooper. For Welcome Week, I know we're kind of way ahead of the curve on that. We're not, we're only in, I was going to say November, but it's still October. So, we're a little bit away from what Welcome Week will look like next year, but I did just want to start planting some seeds about that for you and just let you know some of the tentative dates that we have planned just for your own planning purposes. I know at this point, some folks may know for sure that Cooper is the place they want to go. Other folks are still making some decisions. So again, just for planning purposes, we are looking to begin our Welcome Week orientation program on August 20th, and it would be a week long. It ends on August 27th and goes up to when classes, which would begin on August 28th. I say tentative dates here because our next year's academic calendar is still in the process of being finalized. I would give you these dates with a very high level of certainty that this is what they will be. It mirrors what our annual cycle is. Feel free to bank on these. These are the dates they more likely than not will be, but if there are changes, those would obviously be communicated to you. But I can't envision why this would possibly change. So just good information for you to have as we're going through that. And then this may be a little bit small, but just wanted to share a little bit about what we do during Welcome Week, because it really does help set the tone for what the students' experience is going to be once they start taking classes here and begin as a member of our community. So we do a lot of community building and a lot of connection forming. I mean, that's really the crux of what that week is about, is them getting to know each other and also getting to know New York City, getting to know Cooper Union, getting to know their faculty, getting to know upper class students. We have a peer mentoring program where they are matched with upper class students who may have shared interests or at least a shared major, and really have someone else they can sort of rely on throughout that week. And a lot of other upper class students that are here to help kind of shepherd them through the whole experience as they become familiar with New York City and with Cooper Union, with our academic programs, and just what life's going to be like while they're here. Just out of a show of hands, I'm curious, how many folks here are from New York? Wow, almost everybody. Okay, great. So they may already be very familiar with New York. They may be familiar, if you're from New York City, they may be super familiar with the neighborhood and all that. But I will say, it is very different living here. And when, not just the academic component of starting to study here, but really just when this becomes your home and spending day in and day out in the East Village, in the neighborhood, learning the nuances of your local coffee shop, how to eat, how to buy food, how to cook, some of the skill sets that some students may already possess and many do not yet possess. Some may leave Cooper with a degree and still not know how to cook or do laundry. I hope that's not the case, but I am sure that does happen in some situations. So we do our best to help on that front. Any support from you all is also greatly appreciated. So we also do a lot of workshops throughout the Welcome Week and orientation programs, and I'm putting these here just to give you a snippet of what a lot of that will look like. As we get closer, you get a lot more detail around these programs, a lot more information and context for these. But we focus on healthy relationships. Again, navigating Cooper Union. We do an open house where all of the buildings are open, all of the labs, studios, shops are open and staffed, and students have an opportunity to kind of walk through, really get a feel for what those spaces look like, what it will be like to engage in those spaces before they actually start the first day of classes. It's kind of like preempting the nightmare that I still have to this day of being in high school and not knowing where my math class is going to be. Trying to give as much care and support around that as we can, and helping folks navigate those spaces. The good news is we primarily have these two academic buildings, the one you're in here and the one across the street where most of the students are probably in right now. So it's pretty easy to navigate, but nonetheless, there's usually some anxieties around that. So we try to get folks really familiar. We'll spend a good bit of time talking about self-care, wellness, going over what those resources are here at Cooper, what access to healthcare looks like both through Cooper and in the neighborhood. Alex will talk a little bit about that. Just to give you some more context, safety and security, we have a safety and security team here who does workshops. We also bring in some folks who do some sort of self-defense workshops for students that are interested in just some tips about how to sort of hold yourself and engage in the community, navigating subways, those sorts of things. We do those actually ongoing throughout the year too. It's not just a Welcome Week orientation thing. We offer that regularly. Alcohol and substance use and misuse, again, really want people to be informed about not just what our policies, procedures, and expectations are about being a member of our community, but also a pragmatic sort of harm reduction approach, making sure that folks have information that they may need about, they are going to become adults very soon, and they'll have the ability to make decisions, and we want to make sure they're making the healthiest decisions they can in an informed way. So we provide a lot of information around that. Going back to the whole community building and connection forming, we do a welcome back picnic, welcoming the whole campus back, which includes our incoming students, our new students, faculty, staff. You'll see some pictures about that in a little bit that I'll show you at the end here. And again, more community building and connection forming. I think the point I want to make about a lot of this is just attendance is really important. Sometimes families have vacations booked or other travel plans booked, and that happens, and we always do what we can to work with and support students, but there's certain things you just can't replicate, and you can't replicate a week of spending day in and day out with your peers, getting to know them, building those relationships. So just strongly encourage folks to plan for that, and whether it's Cooper or whether you decide a different institution is best for you, I've done this for some time now. I would definitely say, whatever your orientation or Welcome Week programs look like wherever they end up, really, really key component to making them feel welcomed and part of their community where they end up. And same here. So we really would love to see them here for that week and go over all of that with you. I'm going to introduce Alex in just one second, but before I do, I realize I didn't really tell you anything about me at the beginning, which just to give you some sense of just so you know who I am, right? So I've been here at Cooper for a little over 12 years. So I've been here for a bit. I've done this for a while. A lot of our team has actually been either in the roles at Cooper Union or engaged in student care or artistic practices for quite some time, so a lot of wealth of experience. So happy to answer any questions. At the end of this, we'll have a time for Q&A, and then I know sometimes folks may not want to ask a question in a cavernous space like the Great Hall here, so we'll be around for a little bit if you have questions you want to ask one-on-one too. Happy to do that. Again, I've been here for about 13 years. I've welcomed many classes of students and seen many classes graduate, so I can offer any sort of insights or questions you might have about things I've seen, or questions you may have about a specific situation involving what your son or daughter or student may be going through, or questions that maybe some clarity for you or for them, anything at all, just let us know. We're here for that. Sorry, Alex. Now, without further ado, I'd love to introduce Alex. Alex is our Director of Student Care and Support here at Cooper Union. So Alex, come on up.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you tonight. So again, my name's Alex Fisher. I am the Director of Student Care here at Cooper. I started actually in just January, so this is my first full year with our current first-year students, which is actually very great for me to be able to see what they're going through and be able to experience Cooper this way. I've been in student affairs for over 10 years now, though, and here in New York for over 10 years. So I'm the Director of Student Care. We'll go through a little bit of what that means and talk a bit. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about student care and what that means here at Cooper, and what we exactly do. So our student care team consists of myself, Cassie, and Elizabeth. So we have 2 student care coordinators here on campus. Both are licensed counselors. So they do meet with students, specifically talking about time management, just different needs, personal needs, emotional needs, those sorts of things that students may need during their time here on campus and potentially off campus. With that being said, we don't have a formal counseling program on campus, but we do work specifically with timely care. It's a service that we provide to all students, so it's 24/7, 365 days a year, access to telehealth and also emotional health. So students can go on the platform or the website, they can talk to a doctor, they can talk to a nurse practitioner, they can talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and that is completely free to students. They don't have to have insurance to do that or to use that service. It's completely free to them. So that's one service that we provide. We also have our student counseling program. So we contract with roughly about 30 to 40 different counselors throughout New York City, throughout the 5 boroughs. And ultimately, we will provide students with short-term care through those providers. So somewhere between 6 to 12 sessions, we're covering the cost of that, getting students connected to a counselor. Some students only need a couple of sessions. Other students may want a longer-term provider, and then they would work with that provider specifically or getting connected to a long-term care through our counseling program. We also work with local city MDs, urgent cares, hospitals, different clinics around the city, specifically here in the neighborhood, but also throughout Manhattan to help connect students whenever they need any sort of medical care. But again, going back to timely care, we try to direct as many students as possible to that website and to that service because it's free of charge for them. They don't have to pay a copay. They can literally do it from their bed. They never even have to get out of bed to actually get medical care or medical attention and to be seen. They may get a recommendation they should go to the ER or to the hospital, but ultimately they could be seen, without ever leaving their apartment. I also work very closely with students on student health insurance. So we have student health insurance that we work with Wellfleet, a different company, but we will provide insurance, or students will pay for that insurance through Cooper. They do have to have health insurance to come here. Students may opt to have health insurance through a parent or a guardian or through a private service, but if they don't have that or they don't want that, or it's potentially not the best coverage, they could ultimately opt into our Wellfleet insurance, and then it's just put on the student bill. And then, like Chris said, during Welcome Week, we'll do a lot of different events, but throughout the entire course of the semester and the year, we try to do different programs for students specifically related to mental health, to wellness, anything that may come up. So one of the big ones right now is time management and stress. Students are getting ready to move into the midterm section of the semester, and then ultimately we'll be at finals before we know it. And so we're trying to really help students manage that stress and what it means to take care of themselves, and healthy study habits, healthy sleeping habits. I was actually with a bunch of art students today, and about 50% of the class raised their hand when we asked how many students had pulled an all-nighter just this week. So we're trying to really help students find some healthy practices, once they come to Cooper. So. And then I think the other big thing, it's never too early to plan. So a lot of the work that I do is once students are admitted to Cooper, is really trying to get them onboarded with our different resources that we have, whether that be connecting to care before they get here, whether it be getting their timely care platform set up so that they're ready to go, rather than setting it up when they actually need it. They can just log in because they've already set up their account. But a lot of it being too, I work with students to do academic accommodations, so working with those students before they arrive here on campus to get things like that set up to make sure that they're ready to go, so they can hit the ground running. A lot of it being too that we want students to come to Cooper and we want them to feel comfortable being here, thinking of New York City as their home, and their campus as their home as well, but really the entire city being that campus for them and really learning and growing here in the neighborhood, but also in the city. The other thing too, we want students to really start thinking about before they get here, and then ultimately when they do get here, about those ongoing medical needs, mental and emotional health needs, and then also specifically medication. So again, getting connected to care before they arrive. So everyone being here from New York City or New York for the most part, for our students that are coming from out of state, it's really important for them to start thinking about this specifically, just because it may be a little bit harder with insurance transferring, that sort of thing, to really get connected to care. But even also getting students connected who are local to resources here in the area. And then I think the other big piece of it too is making sure that students have a support system. So whether that's parents, family, friends, relatives, whatever that looks like, having that support system before arriving, but also then continuing that support system. So we try to get students to understand that they should reach out to their support system a couple of times a week just to check in. The last thing we want is for parents and guardians, families to be calling and frantically trying to find their student. And then we say, yep, we've seen them, they're fine. We want students to proactively do that and continue those conversations and those connections. And then the last thing here, I'll be around at the end as well, but students and staff and families can get in touch with us by just emailing studentcare@cooper.edu. That's our main email address. It's also our website, so if you just go to cooper.edu/studentcare, you can literally find all of our resources online, everything that Student Care has to offer. We have a ton of different websites and resources on that link as well, but our main email address is studentcare@cooper.edu. And then just some of the different things that we do. Partnering here, we're part of the JED Foundation, so working to make sure that we are providing resources and support around mental health. So we just did and finished up our JED campus study. So basically over the last 4 years, there's been different assessments done, that sort of thing, and then ultimately we're taking the feedback that we've received through those assessments and through this planning to hopefully make Cooper a better place for all of our students. That also comes along with our Healthy Minds Network, and then our group here on campus that sort of oversees these different pieces to make changes is our Well at Cooper group. So the hope is that we can get students involved in these sorts of things on campus to help make their community a better place for themselves, but also for their peers and for generations to come. So with that, I want to introduce Whitney Oldenburg. She is our Director for Career Development, and she's going to chat with you now. Thank you.
Hello, welcome. My name's Whitney Oldenburg. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the director of the Center for Career Development. I've been working at Cooper almost 5 years. It's gone by fast, but I'm glad to be here. So we have a small, tight team in the Center for Career Development, but we do quite a lot. So the majority of our time is spent doing one-on-one career counseling appointments. Just with engineering students, we've had 325 meetings, 74 meetings between August 1st and September 1st. We really cover quite a lot in the meetings, and I feel like that's when we make the most progress with students. We also host a job and internship fair for both semesters. That's changed a little bit since COVID, but usually we have 30 to 60 companies per semester come to recruit students. We also have information sessions. So a company might decide they want a more intimate time to interact with students, so they'll do a presentation, we'll offer food, and they'll talk to students about opportunities that they have. And in addition, there's quite a lot to go through. We also run a mentorship program specifically for the School of Engineering. So we match students with an engineering alum that we think that they will be interested in. So we look at their interests, we look at what companies they want to work for, what sorts of things they want to do, and find an alum in the field doing those things. We also run a number of workshops and presentations. So we might cover all sorts of topics from resume, career fair prep, time management, how to do research, how to find out how to do the things you want to do. There's specific research experiences for undergrads, so we do a workshop on that. We also present in an intro seminar. So at least 3 or 4 times a semester, I actually will present during the entire time of the class with students and answer their questions. In addition to this, we also have panel discussions, so we try to bring in our alum to talk more about what they do and meet students. So this spring, we're hoping to do a panel discussion regarding the climate economy. It's very exciting. And we also support the student groups and professional associations. So we support them in some ways financially, but also with arranging site visits, field trips, other panel discussions. In addition to this, we also do resume collections. So certain companies will email us and ask to see Cooper Union resumes, and so we'll do a formal collection. It's a really great way to be recruited because it's quite easy for the student. So we try to do that a few times a semester as well. In this February, we will also have our mock interview night, which is sort of a speed dating but interviewing. So each student will be matched with an alum. The alum will interview the student, and then after 20 minutes, we'll swap. And the alum will provide feedback for the student so they can improve their interviewing skills. One of the funds that we manage, I think is one of the best things we do. We fund last year we funded 65 engineering students, so we contributed over $13,000 last year to support students going to professional conferences, learning coding if they wanted to take a particular class that is not offered at Cooper, investigating interests that aren't available. So it's really a great opportunity. We also have a pretty robust jobs board, and we post external jobs every single week. So we really, if a student is looking for jobs, there's a number of jobs coming our way and on a weekly basis. And then last, we provide quite a lot of resources. So if we're not available and a student just wants to read information for themselves, they can look over industry research, they can look over, how's the best way to do their resume, what are the best practices for career development. So that pretty much sums it up. It's quite a lot, but this is just for the engineering school. So I really enjoy working with the engineering students. I think it's always a really great part of my job. And I would say one thing about our office is we get to know the students so well, and we oftentimes keep in touch with them even after they graduate. So it's really nice to see their progression from freshman year to even where they land their jobs and even beyond that. So at this point, I will introduce my colleague, Grace Kendall, the Associate Dean of Students.
Hi everyone, I'm Grace. I've used she, her pronouns, and I am at the beginning of my 7th year here, so it's been 6 years, and it's been great being at Cooper. So I'm here to tell you about our student engagement area. Here's our residence hall. It's located on the corner of 3rd Avenue and Stuyvesant, so just like about a block and a half from the building you're sitting in right now. For the residence hall, we have one residence hall. We prioritize incoming students, so it is almost entirely first-year students, occasionally a few transfer students, and then our staff of RAs who are upper-class students. We typically, on most years, are able to offer housing to any incoming first-year students who want it. However, I will say that we do prioritize based on a number of factors, one of which is geography. So in our initial round of offers, if you live 3 blocks from campus, you may have a lower priority for housing than somebody who lives out of state, who would not otherwise be able to attend. But this year we were able to accommodate everyone who wanted housing from the first year class. It's apartment-style housing, which means that we have between 2 and 3 bedrooms per apartment who are sharing a common space, so they share a bathroom and a kitchen behind the apartment door that leads to the rest of the building hallway. There are extremely limited singles. The RA staff have to live in singles as part of their job, and so there are very few in the building other than the RA staff rooms. Most students will be living in doubles. I'm going to say that again. Most students will be living in doubles. And we find that it's a good experience for them to kind of, get to know that one other person really well. We take a lot of care. We make really intentional roommate pairings based on people's preferences. We don't just it's not like you're on this list and you're the next person down, so you guys are living together now. We really do try to match people based on the interests and the preferences that they share with us in the housing application process. Once the first year ends, students move off campus. It's hard to find an apartment in New York. We know this. We provide resources for the students. We'll do a presentation in the spring every year for students and their families who can attend either, usually we've been doing it virtually the last few years. I don't think we'll change that going forward because it makes it really accessible to people. But we provide different things to look for when you're doing an apartment search. We connect you with resources that exist in the city. We can kind of give you some tips about what to do, what not to do, timelines, and that kind of thing when you're embarking on an apartment search for your subsequent years here at Cooper. In the building, as I said, there's live-in student staff, the resident assistants. There's also live-in professional staff, so that there are resources available to our residential students outside of office hours. We have a really easy email address. It's just reslife@cooper.edu, and that goes to several of us who will be able to respond and answer questions. It can be anything from like a maintenance issue to, being curious about what time a building closes for break, or just needing to talk to somebody, having a concern about your roommate, whatever it may be, it can go to that email address and someone will help them. In the spring, if you come back to campus for any of our other activities, as part of the admissions process, we will be having tours of the building as part of the Admitted Students Day. We'll take you through, show you the common spaces, show you some volunteer apartments that will let you go in and see the different layouts. So moving along to the other half of the student engagement side, we have campus life and activities. We have a number of student clubs and organizations, as Chris alluded to earlier. We have a lot of professional student organizations, particularly for engineering. Within the different majors or different professional societies students can join. We do a lot of fun events that aren't necessarily academically focused. There's an annual talent and culture show in the spring every year. We have an athletics program. It has kind of varying degrees of engagement depending on people's skill level. So we have a really active soccer team. We have some more like club level sports, and we're also looking at different kind of recreation activities. We focus a lot on community building. We want people to come out of their labs and come out of their studios and meet each other and talk and be able to form connections. We also do leadership development with our clubs and club officers, and we support them as they go through the process. A lot of our clubs are very, very self-sufficient, and they run themselves, and we just are here to help kind of keep that going, but our students take the initiative and really create amazing things while they're here, even outside of the class. Inside the class, absolutely amazing things, but outside of the class as well. Jose Michel is our full-time staff person who is a student activities director. He also works with athletics. That is his contact information. He's not here tonight. But as I said, we have many different organizations. We have some that focus on culture, some that focus on religion. The professional societies, as I mentioned before, there's a student government in each school that meets, they meet with the different students and bring forward any concerns to the deans in the academic side. We have a student newspaper. And then there's some other examples of a variety of different activities and engagement students can get involved in. One, they can get involved in many. If you're really passionate about cheese, we have a cheese club, we have a cycling club, we have various performance groups, there's singing groups, there's instrumental groups, lots of different ways to get involved. So anything that they can think of. We have a really, I would say, user-friendly process for starting a new student organization as well. Jose supports students through that process and helps them kind of get registered so that they have access to funding to help plan events and do the things that they want to do. So I'll hand it back over to Chris, who will give you sorry, I'm walking over from the mic, who will give you a visual perspective.
Just to go back, that was not a typo. That does say cheese cult. That is not cheese club, that is cheese cult. So you have to really, really be into cheese to be part of the cheese cult. And many of our students are very into cheese. As I'm vegan, I prefer the nut cheeses, but they actually do have nut cheeses as part of their cult as well. So as Grace mentioned, I wanted to share just some pictures, really to kind of wrap things up and just show you some actual visual representations and depictions of what it is that happens here on campus. During Welcome Week, during the school year, just kind of as folks are out and about, primarily outside of the classroom here. That is the Cooper Union Hawk, the Cooper Hawk. They make appearances at many Cooper Union events. Just a lot of these are just some students just having a really good time that I think it's important for folks to see. This was during Welcome Week, a tour of the High Line. For those of you who are familiar with New York, you may be familiar with this particular seating area there. This is the statue outside of Cooper Union. This is the Cooper Nova, our Cooper Union's dance team, which does compete and has actually won a number of trophies and awards for what it is that they do. Pretty amazing group. A number of these are going to be academic-oriented groups. I think this is the Steel Bridge team, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of different student clubs and organizations that are professionally affiliated and do academic work as well. This is the Society for Hispanic and Professional Engineers. I'm going to not be able to remember what all the acronyms are for all of these, but this is another good group of students doing some academic-related socializing. This is our Muslim Student Association, who this year actually we opened up a, not just for them, for any student who wants to do meditation, prayer, whatever. We have a student prayer room across the street over in 41 Cooper Square, but this particular student club was really instrumental in helping us develop that space. Cooper's Hawk making another appearance. This area they're at here is Frankie's Kitchen, which is at the top of the grand staircase across the street. It's our kind of homegrown in-house dining area where there's food available throughout the day for students to purchase at very reasonable prices and really good food. If you're into salmon, again, I'm not, I'm vegan, but the salmon there is amazing. Everyone raves about the salmon at Frankie's. This is our motorsports team who actually do go out and compete and drive the vehicle. This is during our Welcome Week activities, some Jenga, and that is Laura Sparks, our president, who either just won or lost. I'm not sure which side of the equation she was on here, but certainly was having an awesome time as we were welcoming our incoming class this year. This is our Chemical Engineering Society with their professors out at a conference. You'll find, as Whitney mentioned, a lot of our students do a lot of work outside of Cooper Union with their faculty. Again, attending conferences, doing research, going to graduate programs, a whole host of things. And faculty and students have very intimate relationships here insofar as their connection with their discipline and really helping to foster relationships and helping them grow as not just professors that are teaching them for a 3-credit class, but really a mentor in the field. That's kind of the whole point of coming to a really small, intimate institution is nobody's just a name on a piece of paper, either the student or the faculty. People will know who each other is. We will know who your students are. This is one of the benefits I really think. I have worked at larger institutions and have not seen the level of real direct, not even just care and concern, but people know each other, and it's a really beautiful thing. This is the Cooper Tones. This is our a cappella singing group here at Cooper. This is last year, so some of these folks have actually graduated since, but there's always new folks filling their shoes. Very talented. I always wished I could sing. I cannot. This is some of our students from our School of Art outside of the foundation building across the street. This is the soccer team that Grace was talking about. Again, this is One of our teams that currently still does compete intercollegiately, so we do play some other colleges and universities. We play Pratt, the Webb Institute. I think we still play the Culinary Institute of America, a few other colleges. So we're not in any NCAA divisions of any sort. I don't want to misrepresent our athletic prowess. If you have a student that's considering coming to Cooper Union for our athletics programs, we should probably have a conversation. We definitely do offer them, and there's lots for them to be involved with. However, this is probably not going to be a springboard to a professional athletics career for them. They'll be much better situated to be springboards into an amazing career as an artist, architect, or engineer, in your cases, engineers. But lots of opportunity, lots of things for them to be involved with and do. And one thing I'll mention here too, our soccer coach is an alum. As Whitney was talking about a lot of the career development programs, you'll notice a lot of alumni involvement and a lot of alumni engagement. So, there's a lot of connections peer-to-peer of current students with upper-class students, but we also have a wide, robust alumni network that are really interested and engaged, wanting to come back to campus, provide opportunities for students. The career fairs that Whitney was talking about that we hold in this space, oftentimes a number of those employers that are coming back are actually alums that graduated from here and sort of continuing to hire Cooper Union students through and throughout. It really is a beautiful thing, and a network and connections that live on well beyond the students' 4 years with us here. This is, I'm not sure, I see toothpaste and something else. It's definitely an engineering celebration of some sort. This is one of our student dance presentations that would have happened during our culture and talent show. The Hawk, with some of our current and recent graduate. Some students who are admirably pointing up towards Peter Cooper, the statue outside of this building. That is Jose, who Grace had mentioned earlier, who's our Director of Student Activities. He's the one with the, not the one with the beard, but the one with the microphone, kind of directing the Peter Cooper beard making contest. I believe that was the winning beard. And this is a group of students, I'm not exactly sure what they were doing, but gathering together and allowed us to take a photo. And that's kind of a pictorial review of a lot of things that happen here on campus. Again, I just wanted to give some context. I know oftentimes, the primary focus for coming here is to learn how to be an engineer in their specific discipline, and that is by all means the most important aspect of their time here. But in order to be a successful engineer, you also have to learn how to engage in the world. And in order to do that, that's why we really stress involvement in outside activities, whether they're sports, whether they're just clubs, whether they're professional societies, as Grace mentioned, even just getting out of your apartment and going shopping with your friends. We do a lot of work around getting students just to connect with one another so that as they graduate and they move on into the world of work, whatever that looks like for them, they have a skill set beyond the academic, beyond just the pure skills that they will be expert in when they leave here. But they're also able to communicate. They're also able to, engage with other human beings in meaningful ways, build those relationships, and have all those other skills that employers are looking for, or just that they need to be successful in life as they move on. So it really is a triangulated approach around everything we do. Is not just in the classroom. We really want students to be very well-rounded and kind of rounded off so that they can, whatever it is they want to do next, they have the ability to do. I love this quote, which is why I put it here. Again, study the science of art, study the art of science, develop your senses, learn how to see, realize that everything connects to everything else. And I think that's kind of that's not the ethos of Cooper Union, but I think it's a good quote for Cooper Union. It really is the marriage of art, architecture, and engineering coming together. It's three distinct schools. Students do have their own courses of study, but there's an increasing number each year opportunities of students to intersect with the other majors through a whole host of ways. There's a big push towards interdisciplinarity. We hold a whole host of interdisciplinary classes, many of which are co-taught by faculty within other schools. So an engineering professor and architecture professor currently teaching a course on artificial intelligence, as an example. But a lot of courses are designed specifically, and faculty are incentivized to come together and teach kind of across disciplines to give students exposure, not just to different academic perspectives, but also to other students, so that we have artists, architects, and engineers sitting in the same classrooms, doing some of the same work to give that different perspective. And what an artist can bring to an engineering project is very different than what another engineer may bring. And similarly, what an engineer can bring to an art space is also a very different sort of perspective. So trying to build those relationships and build those perspectives and get people to see things just a little bit differently than they may normally do in their day-to-day. Because it all connects. Everything is interconnected. Thank you for being here. I know you all have had probably a pretty long time with us here today, so I appreciate those of you that have held out to the very end. If there are any questions at all, we're here, not going anywhere. Please stop up and ask us anything that's on your mind. We'll be glad to answer it. Also, we gave some contact information up here. I will also make sure that the enrollment team gets a copy of these slides, so as they communicate out, we can make sure that gets emailed to you, just so you can, again, feel free to review it. Not that it's probably that exciting, but at least there's some contact information in there. If you do want to reach out to some folks, you can kind of have that at a glance to refer to. I also believe this is actually being recorded and probably would be available for you to watch again, too, if you wanted to do that as well. But really, a pleasure. Really great to meet you all. And again, we're here. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to pop up or just reach out offline, too. You can always just send us an email, and we're easily accessible. If you go on Cooper's website, you can find the directory and see how to email us. But we're here. Great. And I hope you all have a wonderful night and get home safely, please.